Welcome to Life Restored SA, where we share God's truth even when it hurts. Today in studio we have Melissa Sutherland, and she is going to share more of her personal story. If you haven't already heard the intro, which was shared on K-Love and Air One, please click the link below. God has rescued Melissa from a life of abuse and exploitation, and we believe that her story will bring hope to many others out there that are looking to be saved. Hey everyone, I'm Molly Vogt, and this is Melissa Sutherland. And we are with Life Restored SA. We are a nonprofit group right here in San Antonio, Texas. We exist to bring hope and purpose and healing to youth that have been sex trafficked, exploited, or abused. And we work with family members as well. We know that healing a life heals a family, heals a community. And as many people have been hearing about Sound of Freedom and what's taking place around the globe, it's dark. It's hard to acknowledge that really is happening right now, but the light shines in the darkness. And we are here to talk to you a little bit about what we do as Life Restored and what you can do as well. And just to myth bust a little bit, once somebody goes through such terrible trauma as sexual abuse, if it's not dealt with at some point or another, it can lead to very dark things for a long time, and it's generational. So Melissa Sutherland is a volunteer and a mentor alongside me as well, but she also has a special way of meeting girls that have been exploited in different avenues. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, going into adult dance clubs and on the street and in the prisons. And because you yourself are a survivor, so you have a very special look into what's taking place. And so we just want to hear a little bit from you to help us understand what's really happening. We've seen trafficking, like, the movie Taken, we've seen The Sound of Freedom, and it doesn't always look the same. Some could be manipulation. And so let's talk a little bit about some of the stuff that you've seen and you've experienced.
Okay, yes. Well, I think for us, I think we have a certain idea when we hear sex trafficking, right? And like you said, the movie Taken, I remember seeing that movie, and it was, a while ago, and it just kind of gripped me, and I thought, wow, but that's really not the way it usually typically happens. In fact, there are so many different ways that it can happen, and so many different circumstances. But I think what people need to understand is that there is a grooming process that leads up to someone being trafficked. For me, I was sexually abused as a young girl on several occasions, and so, which was very traumatizing. And we know that sexual abuse, unfortunately, runs rampant. And so from there, it just sort of depends on your circumstances and really your family life too. My parents became divorced, and my mom, single mom, trying to support me and her. And so she was gone a lot. I was left by myself, my own means. And just by the time I turned 17, I was just a mess. And I had all these holes in my heart from all of the hurt that I experienced. I was looking through a filter that was jaded, and a filter that was just... I was just so full of hurt and confusion and anger, and I ended up in a strip club.
At what age?
17. I was 17, and in the state of Texas, that is illegal. You are not to hire anyone under the age of 18, and it is considered trafficking. But see, I would not have identified as a trafficking victim because I had emotional needs that I needed to be met, and felt like the manipulation that came from these people in the club, the managers, I mean, they saw me coming. I had a big target on my back. as someone who would be easily swayed. And I was.
Because you were hurt.
Because I was hurt. I was vulnerable. And even though I was offended, because I actually didn't originally go in there per se to be a stripper. I just wanted to be like a cocktail waitress, knowing that, yeah, I was probably going to be showing some skin and I was still going to be a part of what was going on. But anyway, I went under there, and it was an ad in a newspaper, and so it looked very professional, very respectable. So I went in there, and the manager said, "Oh, I'm sorry, all those positions are taken." Well,
you had the perfect one.
It was, yeah. So it's really a lure. So there are so many lures out there that will grab these young women and these young men, and they're vulnerable. I was vulnerable, and I fell for it. So yeah, just a myth buster that it's not like the white van like creeping slowly down the street. Sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. I mean,
breaking somebody down mentally, physically, emotionally, to get to such a dark place where you think, this is what I have been known for or used for, or this is what people were attracted to before.
Right. It's all I have to offer.
All of those lies that have been told.
So many lies. But by the time you're groomed that way and you are broken down, I mean, you really don't have much of a sense of self-worth. I mean, I know that, a lot of people don't feel too much respect for people like that. People who work in the adult industry, and they think, well, they walked in there, they must think it's okay, and if something bad happens, well, too bad for them. Like the kind of you made your bed, you got to sleep in it kind of mentality. Well, you have to understand that I didn't grow up. I didn't, as a little girl, thinking, oh, I would love to work in a strip club. I would love to be abused. Like nobody says that. Right. Growing up. Right. So you have to think, wait a minute, there's got to be a story. There's got to be a history here.
That got them to that place.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know I've talked to many people over the years that they're like, well, if they're in a porn, they wanted to be, and they're sending these pictures, they're taking these pictures with a smile on their face because they want to. And I actually will tell you that I thought that too, Melissa. I believed it. And then, starting to unravel what's really taking place in our society today, and understanding that a lot of times pictures of women are taken they're holding the key to the house, they're holding the baby, they're holding something over their head, and you have to do this or else you're not going to get paid or fed or your daughter back or what have you. And there's so much manipulation that's taking place. But people have to smile. The women are smiling and dancing, but inside got to be so broken.
Oh yeah, definitely. And really just so confused. I know that when I started dancing, I knew that, something inside me told me that, Melissa, you don't belong here. But there's also a disassociation. You somehow, like I did, I compartmentalized. You don't use your real name. You pick an alias. Anything just to separate yourself from what you're doing. So that tells you something. That. That's a marker of trauma, and again, I guarantee you that every single woman, if given an opportunity to get out and to truly understand that getting out is the best thing to do, they would do it. Everyone is just so full of fear. Fear is what kind of drives it too. When you're abused, your abuser, they know how to manipulate. They know how to instill that fear in you. There's so many different ways. And with Life Restored, I know we've talked about this can be a coach, a teacher, someone that's like family or close
that's
to
hurting
the
the
family.
people, that's hurting kids.
Yeah.
Yes, it's usually many times somebody that they know
Mm-hmm.
and that they trust.
Yeah.
In today's age, a lot of the kids think they know who they're friends with on social media, and we're seeing a lot of that right now because they'll just accept a friendship to playing a video game and those kinds of things. So we want to tell our kids to be careful of who they're befriending. But back just to the dance club, because you've got out of that, obviously.
Yes.
And now you are actually purposefully going in to talk to and minister to the girls that are in there.
Yes.
What are you saying to them? What are you hearing?
Well, basically the goal is to create relationship. It's to be able to make a space for them to learn how to trust somebody, to be open to having someone kind of come and speak into their life. It's really a simple thing. It's making yourself available. And I felt so much condemnation from what I did. I mean, it took me a long time to get over the shame. And so, I mean, these women, they're full of shame. And whether they, you cover it up. You want to cover it up and say, well, I'm not. But it is. Yeah. You are. And so anyway, I just let them know that, hey, I know you're in here and this is a hard way of life. And we're just here to come alongside you. And, if you have thought about doing something else, hey, we want to champion this. We want to walk with you. What are you thinking about doing? What are your dreams? What are your hopes? A lot of these women, they've said goodbye to a lot of their hopes and dreams. Thinking that, well, my life just hasn't gone the way it should have gone, and here I am. But so it's kind of trying to stir that up in them and just give them hope that, yeah, you have a great future ahead of you, and we want to help you try, if you're willing, to explore that.
Yeah. And like we do with our kids that we work with, and with boys and girls, is being consistent. So you show up once, you show up the next week, you show up the next week. And that's what we're doing with our kids too, because it's been so sporadic that they, throughout the childhood and whatever kind of abuse they had, that they didn't have anyone consistent that they could rely on that was going to be there. Yeah. They didn't have choices of different things that they could do or wear or eat or anything like that. And so it's really being consistent with them as well. And so if one person comes into the dance club and says, okay, what do you want to do? I'm here to help you. And then you don't come back again, that's not going to help. But I love that you keep going in there, and I know you're strong because you've been there before. But really quick, will you just tell us a little bit about your story and how did you get out?
Yeah, well, I got out because of an eating disorder, which is, I always feel funny when people ask me that, because it's like, it's not like a big knight in shining armor came and just took me out of there, or it was I had anorexia, and also living in that lifestyle, you're so isolated, and like I slept all day and then woke up and boom, you're in the club, and just all these factors, and so my personal story is that I just barely ate. I was depressed, and I just, I just stopped, eating, hardly anything. And when you're in the midst of that world, it's like, go, 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 right? And it's so destructive. And, you're really not thinking of, well, I should have had my carrots today or whatever.
You say you didn't have like the big white knight that pulled you out of there, but you had a bigger knight because God pulled you out of there, because he could use such a situation like that. So anorexia, so what happened?
Yeah, so I was on stage one night dancing, and I just remember just starting to feel really lightheaded, and thinking, oh my gosh, and I just went down. And so I had a few of the ladies, they came and they ran over and saw that like I was in trouble. And I don't really remember like a whole lot of that. I just remember being carried out of the club, and they kind of hurled me in the back seat of a car and just said, where do you want us to take you? Like, where do you need to go? And so, I told them, and so they took me there. And God is amazing how he works. And they took me to a place where I was loved and cared for. People knew my story, and they loved the Lord. And so I was taken to a safe place, and it was there where people gathered around me and just started caring for me and praying for me. And like, I wish I can say that was a point where my life turned around, but that was really just only the beginning. But I can say God uses everything. He doesn't waste anything. And when he says that he's going to turn it all around for your good, he's telling the truth. Like, yeah.
It's a process. So it is a process.
It is.
So at least he got you out of there. He put you with people that really cared for you.
Yeah.
And wanted to help you.
Yes.
And
so yeah, so that part of my life, that chapter closed. But I tell you what, I got myself into all other kinds of things, and drug abuse, alcohol abuse, just promiscuity. I mean, you name it. I was so burdened. When we do things that we're not supposed to, they just weigh on us, don't they? And yeah, it was very heavy. But the thing is, God can do it. And people who are willing to step out and to be those people who are supporting and championing and helping others to find healing, and to be accepted. I think that's a huge thing.
Well, I think it's helpful for people to hear this now, because you're like, okay, well, somebody on the street, she wants to be there. Somebody in the dance club, she wants to be there. But to actually literally sit down and hear this and go, wait a minute, no little girl dreams that when she grows up, she's going to dance and take her clothes off. No little girl thinks that way.
No.
Something got her there.
Yes.
And we can say, oh, okay, well, it's a dancing gal. But then you know what? 1 in 4 girls by the age of 18 have been sexually abused. 1 in 5 boys. And so they don't all look like they work in a strip club.
No.
And so we could be sitting in church and you see somebody next to you and you have no idea, and that person looks like they have it all together, and
right.
Maybe they do, but it's probably been a long process to get them to a place of healing, that they're at least feel confident enough to have a full-time job, to have a family, to do whatever it is that they're doing. And so it's really just humbling for me just to look around and say, there are a lot of survivors around here that have been through a lot, and I feel for them. But we want to make sure that we tell everybody, it doesn't matter if you are 9 or 99, if you have suffered some sort of sexual abuse or trauma, we are here, and we want to walk alongside you. We want to talk with you. We want to listen to your story, because we know that a lot of these negative labels will be put on, and we will keep them. What somebody said something negative to us, and we carry them around for our entire lives until somebody starts to say, that's not true. You are loved. You are cherished. You are valued. You are worthy. God created you in your mother's womb on purpose, by choice, and you're supposed to be here. And so that is what we at Life Restored do, is we want to know who that is hurting, whether they're being trafficked now or they're already out, but they're still dealing with that pain. We want to come walk alongside and be that consistent, loving friend that shines the light in the darkness.
Absolutely. Because we can't do it by ourselves. Like, God did not make us an island to be able to heal by ourselves. And I mean, God could do it, right? In all his greatness, he could heal us right away, but that's not how he wired us. We are wired to connect, to come together, to care for one another, to be his love in his hands and his feet. And so, I mean, that's why I love Life Restored, because It's a bunch of people that get it. You know, they get the fact that God is love and we carry his spirit within us and he works through us in that way. And I mean, there's nothing better. There is nothing better than walking alongside others. And is it messy? Yes, it can be very messy. Are we messy? Yes. All of us are messy.
Yeah.
Figuratively and, literally,
Yeah. And like you said, it doesn't happen like overnight.
No.
And so it's, and I say it's messy, and even in the healing, it's going to take a little while, but that's why it's important to know. And that's why we do training for mentors and volunteers and talk about consistency. And, a girl or a boy may go back to unsafe lifestyle 7 times.
Yeah. Yes.
After meeting with somebody. But that's what it takes, whatever it takes. And that's the whole point of being consistent.
That's right.
Is to let them know that they are loved. And so that's what we want to do.
And, my experience has been in working with those that have been abused and, been trafficked and in the clubs and so forth, is that I have seen some really awesome stories. These, some women they grab hold of the opportunity for healing and they're ready, but most aren't in that place. And I would love to say, there's such a high percentage that I can say are just these stories of getting out and going onward, but really no. But I know that like God is planting seeds, and it's not really, he never promised that we would be able to see all the fruit that was produced, right? Some people are meant to sow the seeds, some people are meant to water,
right?
And it's God who brings the increase. But isn't it cool to know that like whoever God's put in your path, you've done what he called you to do, and that it wasn't for nothing. It wasn't in vain. And so, and that again with Life Restored, I love it because coming along, these girls and these boys and these families, knowing that along the way in their path that we are here to provide what it is that they need.
Yeah. And so for anybody out there, if you know anybody that's walking through this kind of trauma right now, if you are, we want you to reach out to us at liferestoredsa.org. And if you'd like to volunteer, if you'd like to be a mentor, or if you'd like special training for your group, for your parental group, church group, book group, we just want to share some information on what's happening. What does real grooming look like? What are some of the ways that perpetrators are getting our kids to trust them and think that they know them. There are so many different things out there, tricks, technologies, lies, but we know what they are and we can share them with you. And that is the way to stop it, by raising awareness. So,
yes.
So thanks for joining us, everybody. Any last words, Melissa?
Just, take a step of faith and help to be the change. And because we really need people that are willing to step out and step up.
And there is darkness, but the light is shining through it. So God bless you all.
Thank you.
See you soon.